Namo Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacarya Ashtottara Sata Sri Srimati His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, I hope all you are doing well. Today we'll be reading from chapter 5, The Purity of Devotional Service from Nectar of Devotion. So before we start, let's pray first. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshura Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Narayanam Namaskritam Naranchaivo Narattamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatum Jayamudira जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी प्राश्चात्य देशतारिणे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So let's begin chapter 5, the purity of devotional service. If you have not listened to our previous classes, please check out from our playlist. The purity of devotional services. All the previous instruction imparted by Srila Rupa Goswami in his broad statement can be summarized thus: as long as one is materially inclined or desires of merging into the spiritual effulgence, one cannot enter into the realm of pure devotional service. Next, Rupa Goswami states that devotional service is a transcendental to all material contamination and that is not limited to any particular country, class, society, or circumstances. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is transcendental, has no cause. Devotional service is executed without any hope for gain, and it cannot be checked by any material circumstances. It is open for all without any distinction, and it is the constitutional occupation of living entity. In the Middle Age, after the disappearance of the Lord Chaitanya, great associate Lord Nityananda, a class of priests priestly person claimed to be descendant of Nityananda, calling themselves Goswami caste. They further claimed that the practice and the spreading devotional service belonged only to their particular class, which was known as Nityananda Vamsa. In this way, they exercised their artificial power for some time until Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the powerful Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. There was a great hard struggle for some time, but it was turned out successfully. And it is now correctly and practically established that devotional service is not restricted to particular class of men. Beside that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already is at the kind of status of being a high class brahmana. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's struggle for this movement has come out successfully. It is on the basis of his position, and anyone can now become a Gaudiya Vaishnava from any part of the world or any part of the universe. Anyone who is a pure Vaishnava is situated transcendentally, and therefore the highest qualification in the material world, namely to be in the original mode of goodness, as mode of goodness, has already been achieved by such a person. Uh, our Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world is based on above mentioned proposition of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Our spiritual master, on his authority, we are claiming member kind of from all section of the Western country. The so-called Brahmana claim that one who is not born into the Brahman family cannot receive the scared threat and cannot become the high grade Vaishnava. But we do not accept such a theory because it is not supported by Rupa Goswami or by strength of the various scriptures. Srila Rupa Goswami specifically mentioned here in that every man has a bright right to birthright to accept devotional service and to become Krishna conscious. He has given many evidence from the many scriptures, and he has specially quoted one passage from Padma Purana wherein the sages Vasishtha tell King Dilipa, "My dear king, everyone has a right to execute devotional service just as he has a right to take early birth in the morning of Magha, December, January." This is more evidence in the Skanda Purana in the Kashi Khanda portion, where it is said in the country known as the Mayurabdhaja, the lower caste people who are considered less than Sudra are also initiated in the Vaishnava cult in devotional service. And when they are properly dressed with tilaka on their body and bread in their head, bread in their hand, or in their neck, they appear to be coming from Vaikuntha. They appear to be coming from Vaikuntha. In fact, they look so very beautiful. They surpass the ordinary Brahmanas. Thus, Vaishnava automatically become a Brahmana. This idea is also supported by Sanatan Goswami in his book Haribhakti Vilasa, which is the Vaishnava guide. Therein, he has clearly stated that any person who is properly initiated into the Vaishnava cult certainly become a Brahmana, as much as mental known as the Kamsha, Bill mental. As much as metal known as Kansa, Bill metal, is turned into gold by mixture with a mercury. A bona fide spiritual master under the guidance of authority can turn anyone to the Vaishnava cult so that naturally he may come to the topmost position of Brahmana. Srila Rupa Goswami on, however, that is the position is properly initiated by bona fide spiritual master. He should not think simply by the acceptance of the initiation. By his initiation, his business is then finished. One still has to follow the rules and regulation very carefully. If after accepting the spiritual master of being initiated, one does not follow the rules and regulation of devotional service, then he again fallen. One must be very vigilant to remember that he is a part and parcel of the transcendental body of the Krishna. That it is his duty as a part and parcel to give service of the whole or Krishna. If we do not render service to Krishna, then again we fall down. The other words, simply becoming initiated does not elevate one to the position of the high class Brahmana. One also has to discharge the duty and follow the regulative principle very rigidly. Sri Rupa Goswami also says that if one is regularly discharging devotional service, there will be no question of fall down. But if circumstantially there is some fall down, the Vaishnava need have something to do with the praschitya, the ritualistic ceremony for purification. If someone fall down from the principle of devotional service, he need not take to praschit the performance for reformation. He simply has to execute the rules and regulation for discharging devotional service, and this is sufficient for his insistment. And this is sufficient for his reinstatement. This is my kind of mystery of Vaishnava cult, devotional cult. This is the mystery of the Vaishnava or devotional cult. Practically, there are three processes of elevating one to the platform of spiritual consciousness. The the this this process are called karma, jnana, bhakti. Ritualistic performance are in the field of karma. Speculative process are the field of jnana. one has to take bhakti, one who has taken the bhakti, the devotional service of the Lord, need have nothing to do with the karma or jnana. It has been already explained that pure devotional service is without any tinge of karma or jnana. Should have no tinge of philosophical speculation or ritualistic performance. In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami gives evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam 11th Canto 20, 20 first chapter verse 2, in which Lord Krishna says to Uddhava, the distinction between qualification and disqualification may be made in this second way. Person who are already elevated in discharging devotional service will never again take shelter of the process of productive activity or philosophical speculation. If one stick to devotional service and is conducted by regulative principle given by authority or acharya, that is the best qualification. This statement is supported in Srimad Bhagavatam 1st Canto 15th chapter verse 17, wherein Sri Narad Muni advised Vyasadeva, thus even if one does not execute his specific occupational duty but immediately take direct shelter of the lotus feet of the Hari Krishna, there will be no fault on his part, and in all circumstances his position is secure, even if by some bad association he fall down while executing devotional service, or if he does not finish the complete course of devotional service and die untimely, still he is not at a loss. A person who is simply discharging his occupational duty in varna or asrama, however, with no Krishna consciousness, practically does not gain the true benefit of human life. The purport is that all conditioned souls who are engaged very frantically in activity for sense gratification without knowing that this process will never help them to get out material contamination are avoided only with repeated birth and death. In the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly stated by Rishabdeva to his son, person engaged in fruitive activity are repeatedly accepting birth and death until they develop a loving feeling for Vasudeva. There will be no question of getting out from this stringent law of material nature. As such, any person who is very seriously engaged in his occupational duty in the Varna and Asrama, who does not develop love for the Supreme Personality Godhead Vasudeva, should be understood to be simply spoiling his human form of life. This is confirmed also 11th chapter of 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th chapter, verse 32, in which Lord says to Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, any person who takes shelter of me in complete surrender and follow my instruction, giving up all occupational duty, is to be considered the first class man. In this statement of the Supreme Personality Godhead, it is understood that a person who are generally attracted to the philanthropic, ethical, moral, altruis- altruistic, political, social welfare activity may be considered nice men only in the calculation of the material world. From Srimad Bhagavatam and other authentic Vedic scripture, we learn further that if a person simply act in Krishna consciousness and discharge devotional service, he is considered to be far better situated than all of the above person engaged in philanthropic, ethical, moral, altruistic, and social welfare activity. The same thing is still more empathetically confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 11th Canto 5th chapter, verse 41, in which Karvajan Muni addressed Maharaj Nimi as follows: my dear king, if someone give up his occupational duty as they are prescribed for the different varna and asrama, but take complete shelter, surrendering himself unto the lotus feet of the Lord, such person is no more a debtor, nor has nor has he any obligation to perform the different kind of activity we render to the great sage ancestor, living entity, and the family of the society member, nor has he any need to bother executing the five kind of yajnas sacrificed for becoming free for sinful contamination. Simply by discharging devotional service, he is free all kind of obligation. The purport is that as soon as a man take his birth, he is immediately indebted to so many sources. He is indebted to the great sages because he profit by rendering their authoritative scriptures and book. For example, we take advantage of the kind of books written by the Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva has left us all the Vedas. Before Vyasadeva's writing, the Vedic literature was simply heard, and, and disciple would learn from the mantra quickly by hearing, not by reading. Later on, Vyasadeva thought it wise to write down the Vedas because in this age people are short memoried and unable to remember all the instruction and given by spiritual master. Therefore, he left the Vedic knowledge in the inform of book such as Purana, Vedanta, Mahabharata, and Srimad Bhagavatam. There are many other sages like Sankaracharya, Gautama Muni, Narad Muni, to whom we are indebted because we take advantage of their knowledge. Similarly, we are obliged to our forefather because we take our birth in particular family. We take all advantage and inherit property. Therefore, we are indebted to the forefather and to have have to offer them pinda prasada after they are dead. Simply to the kind of people in general, we are so indebted, as well as to our relative friend and even animals such as the cow, dog, who render us so much service. In this way, we are indebted to the demigod, to the forefather, to the sages, to the animal, to society in general. It is our duty to repay them all by proper discharge of service. But by the one stroke of devotional service, if someone give up all the obligations, simply surrender unto the Supreme Personality Godhead, he is no longer a debtor, not obliged to any other source of benefit. In Bhagavad Gita also Lord says, give up all your occupation and just become surrender unto me. I give you assurance that I shall give your protection from all sinful reaction. One may think that because he is surrendering unto the Supreme Personality Godhead, he will not be able to perform all of his other obligation. But Lord says repeatedly, do not hesitate, do not consider that because you are giving up all other engagement, there will be kind of some flow in your life. Don't think like that. I will give you all the protection. I will give you all protection. That is the assurance of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. There is additional evidence in the Ashtanga Samhita, sorry, Agastya Samhita. There is additional evidence in the Agastya Samhita, as the regulative principle of scripture are not required by the liberated person. So the ritualistic principle indicated in the Vedic supplement are also not required for a person duly engaged in the service of Lord Ramchandra. In other in other words, the devotee of the Lord Ramachandra or Krishna are already liberated person, are not required to follow all the regulative principle mentioned in the ritualistic portion of the Vedic literature. Similarly, in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam of the 5th chapter, verse 42, Karbhajan Muni addressing Krishna Nimi and says, my dear king, a person who has given up the worship of the demigod has completely concentrated his energy in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality Godhead, has become very very dear to the Lord. As such, if by chance or mistake he does not something that is forbidden, there is no need for him to perform any purificatory ceremonies. But the Lord is situated within his heart. He take compassion for the devotee's accidental mistake, or correct him from within. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita in many places that the Supreme Personality Godhead Krishna take a special interest in his devotees and declare emphatically that nothing can cause his devotee to fall down. Nothing can cause his devotees to fall down. He is always protected. He is always protecting them. He is always protecting them. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Now we concluded from reading of Bhaktivedanta purport from Nectar of Devotion. So I hope all you understood. Prabhupada has written very simple way. Now let's jump into the insight. Listen till the end. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
All right, today we are diving into a spiritual philosophy that makes some pretty radical claims. We're talking about a path to enlightenment that says it isn't just for a chosen few, but it's actually open to everyone, everywhere. And get this, it also claims that following this path can completely change your whole relationship with duty and obligation. So let's explore this universal path and see what it's really all about.
So this really is the big question, isn't it? For, centuries, so many traditions have had gatekeepers, priests, scholars, certain families, people who controlled who got access to spiritual knowledge. But what if there was a path that said all that exclusivity is not only wrong, but it's based on a total misunderstanding of what spirituality even is?
So what is this universal path we're talking about? Well, at its very heart is a concept called devotional service. Let's take a minute and break down what that actually means.
Okay, listen to the words used here to describe pure devotional service, or bhakti. It's called transcendental, which means it's totally beyond our day-to-day material world. It's causeless. You're not doing it to get something out of it. And it's unconditional. It can't be stopped by your social status, your bank account, or where you happen to be born. The claim here is pretty huge, that this is the natural state for every single living being.
But this idea of universal access wasn't always a given. Nope. In fact, the reason this path is considered open to everyone today is the result of a major historical struggle. So here's how it went down. Back in the Middle Ages, a priestly class popped up, and they claimed that only they could practice and teach devotional service because they were descendants of a particular spiritual lineage. They basically created a kind of exclusive club. But then, in the early 20th century, this incredibly powerful teacher, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, just completely smashed that idea. He argued, really forcefully, that this path was not restricted by birth. And his success is the reason why movements based on this philosophy have members from all over the world today.
And this quote, wow, it just perfectly captures the whole argument. It comes from the ancient Padma Purana, and it frames devotional service not as some special privilege, but as a universal right. It says it's as natural and available to every single person as taking a bath. What a simple but profound statement against any kind of spiritual elitism.
But the claim goes even deeper. It's not just that anyone can start the practice. The idea is that the practice itself can elevate a person to the absolute highest level of spiritual qualification.
The source material uses this really fascinating analogy from alchemy. It says that just like you can turn common bell metal into gold by mixing it with mercury, any person, and they mean any person, can be transformed into a brahmana. Now that's traditionally seen as the highest intellectual and spiritual class, and the change happens through proper initiation from a spiritual master.
So here's the absolute crucial point. The title of brahmana isn't seen as a birthright. It's a qualification that you earn through your practice. According to this philosophy, a pure devotee automatically gets that status, no matter what family or background they come from. But, and this is a big but, the texts are super clear that initiation isn't some magic wand you wave. It's the beginning of the process, not the end. So, what does that ongoing practice actually look like?
Right, so once someone's initiated, that's when the real work starts. It means sticking to the rules and staying vigilant. But look really closely at that last step, continuation. This deals with the big, inevitable question, what happens when you mess up?
This is one of the most unique things about this path. See, in a lot of traditional systems, if you make a mistake, a fall down, you have to perform a whole separate formal ceremony to get purified. But here, the philosophy says, nope, you don't need any external ritual. The purification process is already built right into the main practice. You just have to get back up and keep going.
Okay, this brings us to the final and maybe the most powerful claim of this whole philosophy, that devotional service doesn't just sit next to other spiritual paths, it actually contains and goes beyond them. So the texts lay out three main processes. You've got karma,
which is all about rituals and duties to get material results. Then there's jnana, which is the path of knowledge and philosophy, trying to merge with the absolute. And then you have bhakti, devotion, which is totally different because of its motive. It's all about pure, loving service, with no strings attached.
Now, according to this worldview, just by being born as a human, we rack up a whole bunch of debts. Seriously. We owe the great sages for giving us knowledge, we owe our ancestors, we owe society, we even owe animals. Trying to fulfill all of these obligations is seen as this huge, complex, lifelong job.
And here's the punchline. This philosophy says that by taking up this one single path of pure devotional service, a person is instantly, boom, freed from all those other obligations. It's kind of like paying off all your different loans and credit cards with one single, all-encompassing payment.
This whole idea is perfectly captured in a super famous verse from the Bhagavad Gita. It's presented as a direct promise from the Supreme Person, Krishna, who says, "Just give up all your other duties and surrender to me. I promise I'll protect you." I mean, that is the ultimate statement of this philosophy's all-in-one nature.
So we're left with this really powerful final thought to chew on. If one single act of devotion could really satisfy every single debt we have, to our family, to society, to the whole cosmos, what does that tell us about what duty really is? Is it just a long checklist of worldly things to do, or is it something much more singular, much more profound?